Third time's a charm. Good morning. Welcome to Viking Preparedness. I am Pastor Joe Fox. Got to thinking about some things, and I just shot a whole video before the illogicness of my approach hit me. And then I'm sitting there looking at the camera going, oops. And so I'm starting over. And I haven't quite formulated how I'm gonna approach this, but let's just do it together, shall we? Realize I'm only on my second cup of coffee. I don't like write up and edit and decide what I'm gonna talk about and make sure it all fits, but I think you're gonna get something out of this video that you can apply to your life, and that is this. Contingency plans. A specific contingency plan that you may not have put a lot of thought into. You have heard the saying, 2 is 1 and 1 is none. That means have a spare, right? Because stuff breaks. Your spare need not be an exact duplicate. Example, you've got your high-speed, 5.56 Delta CAG SEAL Team 6 DevGru super sniper assault rifle, man, with all the cool stuff on it, and you've put $4,000 into that rifle. Cool. And you keep that somewhere in your house. Stuff happens, right? That rifle could go away. I could come up the top of my head 5 ways like that rifle could disappear. What are you gonna do now, sports fans? What if your rifle disappears and then you find yourself shortly thereafter needing a rifle? Do you have an old Mosin Nagant M44 buried in a tube, within a mile of your place that you could go get real quick and put into action? See, it's cheap. Well, back when I bought them, they were like $45 to $65. I think now they're around $100. Man, that's a 30-06, right? It doesn't need to be your space gun to work, to serve as a spare. I was thinking about the fires in California and all the homelessness that has ensued. The fire went through and it burned all the houses, and so all the people are out of housing. The few hotel rooms that were available got booked solid. Somebody just sent me a text and I'm thinking about that. Houses that were for rent got rented. Houses that were for sale got bought. And so there's nothing available. And there's all these basically homeless people. And yeah, they can move across the country to, southwestern Virginia to stay with Aunt Millie, but then they'll lose their job, right? A lot of people, and it's one of the strategies I recommend. Your job is in the suburbs or in the city in cubicle hell. Okay, live outside of that. Live an hour away, accept a longer commute. Live on a little slice of heaven and commute into work every day. Well, when your slice of heaven goes away by a forest fire, your job didn't. They're sad for you, maybe, that your place got, destroyed, but bottom line is they got a job to do and you were hired to do it, so either do it or we'll find somebody who can, right? Same thing with big tornadoes, or a little tornado can take out your house. We had tornadoes in this area a couple days ago, on the ground. Not in this immediate, within hundreds of meters of here, but within the county circling us area. Stuff happens. Floods, fires. Sometimes it happens on a big scale. If you are forced from your home, where are you going to live? Where are you going to live? If a loved one, friend, group member, tribe member is forced from their home, where are they going to live? I will tell you that it gets pretty old having somebody sleeping on your couch for a long period of time when your family is trying to do normal life. Would you do it for a loved one? Yeah. Are there better solutions? Oh yeah. So what I want you to think about is alternative housing. The Ava Cottage, 2-story house. If my house went away by a tornado that didn't hit the Ava Cottage, I could move into the Ava Cottage, but I wouldn't. If it was still there, I'd move into Charlie 6. Charlie 6 is our camper trailer. It is 7 feet wide by 17 feet long. It was built in 1978. Right before I got it, it was used by a bunch of dudes as a hunting camp. It was grody and nasty. It smelled of old cigar smoke and beer, and it was filthy. Just filthy, gross, filthy. Probably not legal to run down the road. They drugged this thing out to the woods years before, left it there, used it once a year. I bought it for $300. I probably put another $200 in it, from, you know, taking everything out of it, sterilizing it, painting it, and then putting stuff back into it. Had to fix the hubs, and then I drug it down here. We set it up on blocks, and my wife and I lived in that for 2.5 years. And it's a $300 trailer, right? Okay, call it $500, you know, when the paint and all that stuff is counted up. Generally weather tight. Has a nice double bed in it, has a 4-burner stove, and the only oven we have on this property other than our sun oven, we have Dutch ovens. 2 sinks, shower stall. We ripped the toilet out, put a composting toilet in, which is a good idea. I lived in it for 2.5 years. I could move back into it without missing a beat, right? So that's cool, we have that. We have the Alva cottage we could move into. We have sheds. The soon to not be an abomination anymore tool shed right there. That's gonna be cool when I'm done. And then this little guy right here. And then we have other sheds all over the property. Your sheds. I did a video on this up at High Prairie Acres one time. Every time you put a shed on your property, like to hold your lawnmower or something like that, you should site it, install it with the idea that it could become human housing. I get it, and this is where I messed up my first video. If the forest fire comes through and destroys your house and all the other houses in your part of the county, it destroyed your shed too. Yes, it does. You're gonna have plan B for that, or plan C, and we can address that. But you know, stuff could happen. You could have, God forbid, I'm not cursing you with these words, you could have an electrical short or a fire and your house could burn to the ground. The tornado could just take out your house. You know, whatever, stuff happens, right? Your house could go away. That shouldn't end your life. And to the extent that you can stay at home, and again, 3rd time shooting this, so hopefully I'm not repeating myself this time. Plan A should always be to stay at home in the face of catastrophe. It shouldn't be to bug out. If your plan A is to bug out when something terrible happens, you need to move now. Another video for another time, but that's a bad plan if plan A is to bug out. So, I'm looking at something that I don't know what it is in the woods. I'll check that out after this. Give yourself options. Hard shelters, even little sheds, are better than tents. They're just better to live in. When you build your shed, or have your shed built, or have it brought out and sited on your suburban lot, do so with the idea that you may have to take care of heating and cooling. And I'm not talking about central air and heat. As far as heating goes, most of you need to provide heat in the winter. It'll be too cold. But that's all relative, by the way. You know, we woke up this morning and our house was probably in the 40s. It's not now, but you know, we were in bed, who cares? I had a hat on. But you're probably gonna wanna heat it. You could use a buddy heater, either with the little 16-ounce propane bottles, or just get an adapter and use the big 20-pound bottles, or have it hooked up to your regular propane, you know. You could install a little wood stove in there, or have one ready to go with all the pieces you need to install. That's heating. Insulate it, right? Insulate the inside of your shed and put walls up, even if it's just OSB that you just put up. It'll make it warmer and nicer. Make your shelves in there big enough to be beds, right? Maybe get some mattresses or sleeping pads or something, figure out the width and do that in advance. And then as far as cooling goes, mostly that sighting, think shade, sun, that kind of thing, and ventilation. You're gonna have to have windows, so you can get some air going. So yeah, and sheds, hard structures are better than tents, even wall tents, you know. And the other thing is about a shed versus a wall tent, a shed is standing and useful now. The wall tent, if you leave it standing, it'll just be terrible. It won't work when you need it, right? I mean, weather, sun, everything affects it. It's blown down itself and rips over time, and then when you actually need it, it's trashed. And so you've got this really expensive thing sitting in your garage. Okay, if you can afford that, awesome. Better, I like to say, how can we make multiple uses of things? So when you get a shed and you say, all right, I need a shed for my lawnmower in suburbia, and I want to store the extra paint and 2 cans of gas in there. Oh, and our rake and our shovel in our shed. Okay, so I need a shed this big. We're gonna make it this big just in case somebody has to move in. Cool, here's what's gonna happen. I don't care how big you make your shed, a couple years after it's there, it'll be full. Right? It's just like a gun safe. I have 15 guns, I'm gonna get a gun safe that holds 20. Better get a gun safe that holds 30. You will have more guns eventually. I mean, I'm just saying. So your shed is full, and now it's time for either you to move into it temporarily or for you to move your best friend Bob and his wife and 2 kids into your shed. Okay, what about all the stuff in the shed? I mean, it's going to rain, it's going to snow, the sun is going to beat down. I don't want to destroy my generator, my, you know, wind blower, snow blower, leaf blower, whatever you have in your shed. Here's my idea. You may have a better idea, and if you do, write it down. I just had another idea. Another idea is a cheap tent that you store in the shed, and then when you need to empty the shed, you bring the tent out, set it up, you know, Walmart tent, throw all the stuff in the tent. That might work. But my other idea is just get some pallets, stash them behind the shed where you can't see them. If it's going to be a long-term thing, cover them in plastic so, you know, the rain doesn't get on them and stuff. And then store some brand new tarps. They store really flat and nice inside your shed. And when you need to empty the shed, empty it onto the pallets. Lay the pallets out, put the stuff on it, cover it with tarp. It's out of the weather. Temporary solution. 10 ideas, not bad. A little bit more expensive. Another thing to think about. I'm thinking out loud here. Go ahead and buy a couple cheap tents. Having slept in many different styles of tents, especially if you are a family with kids, it's good to have a couple tents and get the ones that you can stand up inside. Don't get super fancy pop-up tents, they all break. Just get ones with the fiberglass poles that you put together and they go doink, doink, doink like an igloo, and you know, it's this big. If it says it's a 4-person tent, it'll feel comfortable for 2 people. Trust me on this. I like 6-people tents. And if you get 2 of those and put them face to face, like only from me to you right now, apart with the doors facing each other, you can put the kids in one and you and dad and mom can sleep in the other one, you know, whatever. And that's kind of nice, but it's not as good as a hard structure. So think about that. Think about an alternate living location on your place for you and for people you care about to relocate to. Hard times are coming. There are going to be refugees. Some of us are going to be refugees. Those of us who aren't are probably going to know refugees. Refugees can be a blessing and a curse. Depends how you employ them, how you treat them, what you have prepared ahead of time for them. I mean, all aspects of for. Think that through. But you know, it could work out for you, especially with a little forethought. Think about your contingency housing. What's your plan? And you might want to incorporate PACE, primary, alternate, contingency, and emergency. All right, I'm interested in your comments. I appreciate y'all. I'll see you out there.